وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
Good morning to all of our listeners. Peace be with you. I am Hanan Yahya, your program co-host for the day. The topic for today is a very interesting topic. It's something that's very contemporary and it's very relevant to our community today. With me on the show is the fabulous and wonderful Tiba Saadoun. She is going to be my program co-host for the day. She is studying biology at Henry Ford College, and she is an aspiring photographer, poet, and she is really very influential with her words. So help me welcome her on the show. Tiba.
Good morning, Hanan, and
good
morning to all our listeners. Before we begin, you know there is this thing called hashtag Radio Baladi. So it's hashtag Radio BALADI. Tweet us with your questions, your comments, or just tweet us to say good morning. Wake us up.
Awesome. Yes. Stay tuned. For today, our main topic is going to be knowing and protecting your rights. And first, we're going to understand why this is even important, because in this country, it seems like rights are something that are very valuable and are often taken for granted, especially within the Arab American community, and especially for where we come from in our homelands. So this quote might seem familiar to the ear. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I personally love this statement, and this might ring a bell for many. This is the statement taken from the United States preamble of the Constitution, and it really and truly embodies the beauty of what it means to be an American and to have these rights in this country. And something that really struck me, Tiba, was the word unalienable. And when I looked that up, because a lot of times we say this, we've memorized this statement, but we don't really know what that means. And it said that it's rights that cannot be taken or given away.
I find that interesting because even when you look at it, what's stated is even before that they it's admitted that all men, are created equal. So this isn't, like specifying who and what. Maybe back then during the time, but now we realize no, it means a different thing because now we have a different view on what does it mean to be an American. Back then it was something else. So the all men are created equal. Here's where that's the most profound line in the preamble, let alone the Constitution itself. So then when it says unalienable rights, of course then that does make sense. That's truly astonishing. And then it gives you like examples, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So something that goes kind of against this, you're being denied something, you're being denied your rights. Absolutely. So now what do you do?
Yeah. So I don't know if the founding fathers knew that all the struggles were going to happen after they wrote the statement or after they wrote the Constitution. But the Constitution is truly like really, I think, one of the best written pieces out there about like rights for a certain people. And I think if people knew ever since the Constitution and the preamble written what their rights were exactly, think they would have achieved freedom and equality and justice very long time ago, or very early into their struggles. But I think oftentimes the struggles happen for so long until people realize we do have the First Amendment, we do have the Bill of Rights, we do have all these things, and then they utilize them.
I think, like, though what you're saying is true, but, like, remember during the time that it was written, by all men are created equal, it was just the founding fathers and all who were in, like, the parliament areas. But then, you know, once America started to grow, that whole idea of freedom, the whole idea what it means to be an American, the whole idea of this whole Americana civilization, you know, started about. And then, so, you know, people questioned, hey, why can't I have my rights too? So when this was written and then when it was put into practice, it does, like how you say, make a difference. Because look where we were back then, look where we are now. So imagine.
Definitely. And I think, like, today most people are very unaware of what their rights really are. Like, ask anybody to give you what the first 3 amendments are, or the Bill of Rights, or something like that. And I know for sure I can't, like, you know, say them out perfectly, but I'll have some familiarity with them.
My political science professor forced us to memorize the first 10 amendments.
He is right, because they are very important. And
if he's listening, I'll make you very proud.
Definitely. So I think a lot of times there are people that can be, like, scrutinized, like, trialed, charged for a crime they didn't commit, or just to have to go through some sort of struggle, partly because they were unaware of their rights. So also I think in the advancing technology world, it seems like social media is like a new area where your words can be watched and they can be held against you. And I think on our program today, on Life Infused on Radio Baladi, I think we're just going to dive a little deeper into what that really means and what are our rights to begin with. So I think, first of all, I think we need to talk about what are our rights. So what does that mean? And I think the first thing that comes to my mind is the Bill of Rights. And would you agree that the first thing that comes to your rights would be the Bill of Rights? Or do you think of something else?
No, I do think of the Bill of Rights because it's right there, the name. And because, of course, because then it lists, like, at least the 10 important ones. So, yeah, what is my rights according to the Constitution? And then I would think about, okay, what are my rights as a Michigan living person, a person living in Michigan?
Yeah, I completely agree. Because I think in our day and age, it seems like the Bill of Rights are definitely, like, not even memorized or known to the general public. That's first of all, I think. You ask people, you know, what comes to mind when you think of your rights or something like that, and those that are, you know, younger, and I think the younger generations especially, are definitely unaware. And we have to remember too, like, going back to our conversation about how it was created a very long time ago, the Constitution. But the Bill of Rights were amendments, so these weren't already a part of the Constitution that they first wrote, like within the document, and so it only appeared later on, after people said, "Well, this is important. This is important." So definitely, I'd have to say that the Bill of Rights are the first thing that comes to mind. We have a caller on the line, Cynthia.
Yes, hello.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Very good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Yes, I agree on all these points that there's the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the pursuit of happiness and liberty. But what I want to know is what actually kind of freedom do we really have in this country? Because I was stripped of my constitutional rights. I live now in a group home, and I don't have the same freedom I had when I lived in my independent living. And I want to know what has happened to my freedom, my freedom of speech and my freedom of independence. I deserve to be independent, do I not?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Cynthia, I think this is the conversation that's going to be derived out of ours right now. So what are our rights, and then when they're stripped away, what do we do?
Mm-hmm.
And what does that mean? Does that mean that they're no more? Does that mean I can retrieve them? Is there a way to kind of in a way fight back and use those rights and use the Constitution against whatever is whoever is stripping those rights away from you? So I'd say that this is something that we're going to have to dive deeper in by the end of the program today. And I think the first step is acknowledging what's happening to you, what's being taken away. The community that you live in. Who do you have in city council? Who do you have in the justice department in your area? And just familiarizing yourself with the people and the power that's being controlled by who and in your community. And this might seem and the thing is, with these kinds of situations, it's very troublesome. It's burdensome and it's hard and it's disgusting and it's disappointing. But I think once you begin to know how to utilize those rights and who to go to and what to say and what how to go and overcome this issue, and I think that's what's really important. So that's something that we're going to dive deeper in today, Cynthia, and I urge you to stay on the show so we can talk about that a bit more, and then maybe reference some examples of things that might have paralleled with your experiences. So thank you for calling in today, Cynthia.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, like I told her, we're going to dive deeper into that topic today and what that means, because I think it's really important, because I think that's where the issue is, not knowing your rights, and then when they're stripped away, you're like, wait, I had rights. What happened? And then...
Or what are they?
Yeah, what are they? And then just trying to figure out how to get those back or utilize them or talk to people around you. And I get a lot of negative remarks no, this is a joke. I don't really have rights. But we do. And the Constitution backs you up 100%. In some circumstances, you may not have a great attorney, or you may not be able to afford defense, or
maybe even the information that was given to you was false or misinterpreted. Mm-hmm. That also makes a difference, because when you don't completely understand what are your rights, when you don't even know the information is correct or not, that will be very troublesome. That will literally get your freedoms taken away.
Exactly.
And that's a very tough situation to be in.
Exactly. So before diving into that later on, I think it's important to go through our major rights,
right,
and what those mean in this country, and what that means right now, and how it parallels with the struggles in our communities, especially within the Arab and Muslim communities. So the First Amendment. Now this one it's referenced a lot, right?
Correct.
And I think it's a very, very important one, and it's freedom of religion.
Right.
So when I think the Founding Fathers first established the Constitution, they definitely made sure that there was a separation of church and state. And I think that's one of the most remarkable things to do in a country that's so diverse. And it works really well. But then, of course, the First Amendment, which is the first Bill of Rights, protects religious freedom.
You can either have a religion or not have a religion. No government official, no one with any higher authority can tell you otherwise, not even another person. So I can't go to my neighbor and say, hey, you must follow this certain religion, or they can't come to me and say, hey, you must follow this certain religion.
Yeah.
Though it is their freedom of right to, propagate, they can't force me, purposely come, knock my door, say, hey, today you are this, you know?
In some countries around the world, that's kind of what's happening. People are dying because of that.
You can't even trust your neighbor. I remember watching this documentary. It talks about Christians living in a certain country, and they can't trust their neighbors. They are literally feared of being killed, so they have to act like a certain religion in order just to survive.
Exactly.
And they're already given poor, areas to live in. They're already in poverty, So
let alone the fear
of being killed just for being born into a certain religion.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
I think that also, where it says right here, why does it matter? Here it matters, especially living in this, Arab American community. We are, I would say, divided in a sense, are we American? Are we Arab? Are we Muslims? We don't know with this identity crisis, because how are we going to mix, our Islamic values within, our Arab values and as well, our American values? How do we live like a normal life? Basically, a lot of the youth, they say, it's so hard. So either do you see them going one extreme side or the other? Are they becoming like those very religious people that are very antisocial, or very like out there where you can't even tell, oh, you're an Arab, you're a Muslim?
Yeah.
So
that's a really good point.
That really matters, the freedom of religion. So I think when they did write that, they not only want to separate the church and state, they also wanted to get rid of, the attention. So that way, hey, you can follow what you want to follow or not follow anything. That's your right. There you go.
Absolutely. And that's the First Amendment for you, religious freedom. The second one is very important, I think, and it gives us this opportunity to do what we're doing right now, be on a radio talk show as Arab Americans, as Muslim Americans, and to speak our mind and to just talk and say whatever we want, as long as we don't, show potential harm. And I love this amendment, and it's the freedom of speech and the freedom of press.
Exactly.
So it protects an individual's right to expression by guaranteeing that freedom of speech.
There is a debate, however, about that, because the freedom of speech and press, there is a condition where it doesn't harm anyone. And now the debate is cyberbullying.
Absolutely.
Is it freedom of speech, and yet at the same time, how is it protected, underneath the Second Amendment, while you see teens are committing suicide, to this? So how is that protected, yet at the same time it's causing harm to others?
Absolutely. Did you hear about the Cyber Civil Rights Program Monitor?
I did hear about that.
Yes.
Explain to our viewers what it is.
Yeah. So the ADC, the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, recently, in response to the recent upkick in suicides resulting from cyberbullying, they've created the first of its kind Cyber Civil Rights Monitor. And so the program supports victims of online harassment by positioning cyber assault as an offense on civil rights. So it provides guidance, education, and advocacy for all victims of cyberbullying, regardless of their age and ethnicity or religion.
So cyberbullying is going against the Second Amendment.
And in general, civil rights, too. So this civil rights organization just published this new program, and I think it's definitely in the works, and it's going to address cyberbullying as an attack on an individual's civil rights. And it's going to lobby for legislation criminalizing cyberbullying.
Right.
It's also going to raise national awareness. It's going to also promote cyber civil rights advocacy campaigns. It's going to create an ADC Cyber Monitor to identify perpetrators. And it's also going to create an ADC Michigan task force and also provide a venue for victims. And last but not least, but promote an environment of tolerance online. So like we said before, that the issue with not acknowledging your rights or not knowing what they are, it goes to the new advancing world of social media and technology. So in the cyber world, that's what's happening today. Your freedom of speech is being so this is kind of like the opposite. Like when you do express yourself, and if you're hurting someone else, you're showing potential harm to someone else, then that's a violation of civil rights. And I think this program is excellent, and it's much needed. And I think there's going to be definitely, I hope at least.
I agree with you, because I remember when the whole situation in Iraq recently happened, there was a big protest in England against the BBC. Why? Because they were saying statements that could cause harm, you know, to not only like who's listening and who's reading the articles, but can also cause harm within the country itself. So they were saying, hey, our rights, you know, though they are in England, they do have rights of freedom and speech and, you know, and press.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, you also have a duty. So you, the person who has the influence, you, the person who has the authority, you also have to realize that you can't go over our rights and tell people false information, and you can't also like create your own information to cause, you know, more hatred or something just because you need a new storyline by next week.
Right.
And that's the same thing even when you take it to America. Hey, I can say what I want to say, yeah, but when it comes down to it, when you're going to hurt someone or hurt a certain people, then yeah,
then that's
you're like, how do I say this? You're like silently attacking them. You're attacking them, but not physically.
Yeah.
You're attacking them mentally. You're attacking them, you know, online. Because nowadays, you know, the whole world is connected. I can be right here in Detroit. I could be easily talking to someone all the way in Japan.
Yep.
So now that we're all connected in this international world, it's like a cyber world. So now you're living in the cyber world.
Yeah.
So now you have to have cyber rights.
They have to set a new constitution for the cyber world.
Yeah, but to all of viewers, you know, if you're suffering cyberbullying, please tell someone.
Yeah, and address it to this program.
Yeah.
We have a caller on the line. Najib, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Ms. Hanan.
Good morning.
And good morning to your co-host. What's her name?
Tiba Saadi.
Hi, Eva.
Good morning.
This is Najib Habba. I just want to say good morning. Good morning, Radio Baladi, and thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
And I salute also Ms. Leila Al-Husseini and Jim, our producer. So, Ms. Hanan, before anything, I want to wish all the communities here and the whole world a happy month of Ramadan, the holy month, for not a Muslim, but for Christian and Jews and all the other religions, because Ramadan came as a mercy and kindness for all the humanity.
Absolutely.
So happy Ramadan.
Thank you.
And for me, like you say, I respect all the religion. As an Iraqi Christian, I always feel my brother Muslim when they celebrate, and same things with them. They share my happiness when my Eid religious come. So that's the way we want to be, Ms. Hanan. Ms. Eva, we have to be one family. We all came from Adam and Eve, from our father Abraham. Mm-hmm. I love to see the peace coming all over the world. Ms. Hanan,
yes.
About the freedom.
Yes.
The freedom. This is the most gift. You cannot ever buy it, not with million, but billion of dollars. Freedom is the most beautiful, pure word. So I come to our youth, Shabab, our youth who they born in this country, and of course they are proud to be an American and from the background from Middle East or anywhere else. My question is, the freedom of choose a husband or a freedom of choose a wife. Sometimes the culture, with my respect to the culture, I respect the culture. But when we live in this country, we have to melt it in the American part. As American society is a melted pot, all ethnic, all races, all nationalities. But what makes me feel pain and sorry when I see some parents, they try to force the culture or the religion in the freedom of choose who gonna be your partner in the future. In an example, for me as a Christian, I have a daughter. If my daughter choose the man who she loves and who love her, they respect each other, I'll be the first one to graduate them and to give them a big hug and a big kiss. My daughter Christian, if her husband he's a Muslim or a Jewish or a Hindu or whatever, if she love him and love her, what is the problem? Why we don't let the couple choose their life, choose their freedom, choose the religion they want? The husband could stay in his religion. He cannot force his religion to his wife. The wife, the same thing. If she is a Christian, she cannot force her husband, Muslim, to be Christian. Let them live in one nest, in one house, to build a family built on the foundation on love and peace. Like you said earlier about the freedom of religious.
Yes.
Thanks God this country gave us this freedom. I mean, Ms. Hanan, this is a beautiful country. For me as a Christian, I don't see one church in Saudi Arabia. When I see my brother Muslim, they got over 1,500 mosques and masjid in the United States or throughout Europe. I love this, the choose of religious. And I wish if our countries in the Middle East, and soon, I hope, the sun of freedom will come there. All it is in the Middle East is just the greedy, is the evil one to control. But I hope our new generation, they will wake up and with the internet and with the website, all these things, they're going to help our youth, Shabbat and Shabbat, to build bridges between America or Europe and our loved countries in Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Jordan, Tunisia, Algeria. I wish this day is coming soon. And I'm very, very sorry that I took a little bit a long time
It's okay. Thank you so much, Najib. That's a very excellent point. I think just to touch on that very briefly, and I think it's these are like issues that are kind of like a branch from us not acknowledging our rights and stuff like that in the U.S. But the issue with marriage, and I think it's different amongst all cultures, and it's different in all families. And then the other issue with the diversity within our religion and allowing our children and the new generations to practice their religious freedom and to take advantage of the freedoms here in this great country. And I think it's very different, and I don't like to generalize, and I don't like to say that it's all that practice it or do it a certain way, but but we still have to respect to a certain extent the scriptures of the faith and the rules and the and essentially what people choose to do. And I may not agree with it, but it's just that's a whole another issue on its own to dive into on another show, inshallah. Also, just to keep going with our kind of streak through the Bill of Rights, we will take a break before that and then get back to you very soon. So use the hashtag Radio Baladi, RADIOBALADI, to participate in the conversation on social media or call in and join the conversation. Thank you. Be right back.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Dana, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Betsy's Bridal and Formal, Michigan's largest selection of special occasion dresses. Exclusive bridal and cocktail fashions for formal engagements, proms, showers, pageants, mother of the bride and groom, and full bridal wear. Sizes 6 through 30. Betsy's has over 33 years in the bridal business. We promise you the best quality service and alterations. Betsy's Bridal and Formal is located at 6189 Haggerty Road in West Bloomfield. Call 248-669-9999
That's 248-669-9999.
مؤسسة الحياة للإغاثة والتنمية في مدينة ساوثفيلد في ولاية ميشيغان، المؤسسة الرائدة في العمل الإغاثي والإنساني. مؤسسة الحياة ومنذ 20 سنة تقدم العون للفقراء والمحتاجين والمتضررين بسبب الكوارث الطبيعية أو الحروب في شتى أنحاء العالم. كما تقوم مؤسسة الحياة بكفالة الأيتام والعوائل الفقيرة وحفر آبار المياه في مناطق الحاجة، وأيضا تقوم مؤسسة الحياة بتزويد المشافي والمستوصفات الصحية بالأدوية والمعدات الطبية وإنشاء مدارس وعيادات طبية في أقطار عديدة من العالم. ومؤسسة الحياة مرخصة للعمل في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، وجميع التبرعات معفاة من الضرائب. اتصلوا بمؤسسة الحياة للإغاثة والتنمية على رقم الهاتف المجاني 1-800-827-3543 أو زوروا موقعهم الإلكتروني على www.lifeusa.org.
Welcome back to all of our listeners. Peace be with you. You are on today's Life Infused Radio Baladi show titled Know Your Rights and Protect Them. Today with me on the show is Tiba Saadoun, a great friend of mine and a very, like I like to say, is a very influential person with her words. She's a poet and she's an aspiring public speaker. So
every time we're going to change my inspiration?
Yes, I love it so much. Joe, so I kind of was doing some research earlier and I realized that I kind of mixed up the First Amendment with the Second. And I knew I was doing something wrong, but then I just realized it. But the First Amendment includes a lot of stuff. So it does include the freedom of religion. It does include the freedom of speech. And it does include the freedom of press. So those are the three major focuses of the First Amendment. The Second Amendment includes the right to bear arms. So that's something else. And that's another right, along with the rest of the Bill of Rights that are very important and ought to be learned about and researched and for the sake of just knowing your Bill of Rights better, because those are I think the 10 most essential to use and to know in this country and in this day and age. So the third part or the fourth part of the First Amendment, aside from freedom of religion, aside from freedom of speech, aside from freedom of press, is the freedom to petition and assemble. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a great segue into our next conversation regarding what you need to do to acknowledge your rights and use them and utilize them effectively against whoever is stripping them away from you. And thanks to Cynthia, who's called earlier, to bring up this topic. I think the freedom to petition and assemble is one of the many rights that we have within the amendments that we have, as well as in the Constitution, that tells us exactly what we can do to retrieve our rights or fight back for them. So the freedom to petition, assemble, is the right of the people to assemble peacefully and petition the government for redress of grievances without fear of punishment or retribution. And it was something that's very important to the founders of this country, because remember at the time when England's King George III and the Parliament routinely refused to address grievances, and they refused to listen to the people when they would address issues that they had, including those concerning imposition of taxes. And we all know what happened with that case, without the consent of the people and the denial of trial by jury. So at the time it was much worse, and around the world it's definitely much worse. But we have this right, and it's a part of our First Amendment that tells us we have the freedom to petition, assemble. if something goes wrong or you disagree with something or your right is being stripped away, you have the ability to picket or rally or mail letters, sign petitions, publish articles, or use any other form of communication to deliver a message to any level of government, whether that be federal, that be the state government or local government, or even at your local school or community center. These kinds of things are very useful, because once something happens to you, you have the right to assemble, and you have the right to use your freedom of speech to speak out against that.
I think like one of the reasons, because this was in our document that we were working on, is this fear that I might go to prison, or I might be now targeted. And I think that fear also causes the people to purposely not know their rights. When if you know you've done nothing wrong, you truly know that you've done nothing wrong, so you shouldn't be afraid. There is no point to you in being afraid. By knowing your rights and knowing that you have a right to speak and when to speak, but the underlying point is you also have the right not to speak.
Oh yeah, I think that's very critical.
Yeah, because we have the Fifth Amendment, right? Right? You know how our teacher taught us, I plead the Fifth, right?
Yes, I plead the Fifth. So you don't have to talk.
So you don't have to talk. But you don't also have to say anything against yourself.
Yeah.
Because, hey, I didn't do anything. Whereas, you realize back home, you are forced to say something even though you never said it, or even though you never did it.
And then it's held against you.
And then it's held against you. So being here, especially as an Arab American, we're living here, I feel like, we're usually targets. So we purposely don't know our rights. So we also don't know the fact that we have a right not to speak. So that comes into mind. It's like, so I have the right not to speak, and I have the right to speak. So at that time, in that moment, I have to choose which one. That does make a big difference in it.
Absolutely.
Because when I know I've done nothing wrong, why am I fearful? What am I fearful of? Is it just because they're carrying their badges and that causes fear? Who knows? Maybe the policeman is wrong.
And then not knowing your rights will cause you to fall into the situation.
My professor, he told us how his son works in a certain company, but he opens the packages and whatever. So this packaging knife that he uses, it's by the company, so it has its own legalities and whatever. He has it next to his badge and everything in the front seat of his car. So when he was pulled over actually with no reason. But the police, of course, let him go because he had no reason.
Right.
But because he knew his rights, he knew what to do. He's like, hey, this is from my company. You see the badge, and you have no right to pull me over because I've done nothing wrong.
Yep.
There was no, unless he was spying or something, and he could see in the front of his car. Yeah, that's basically, he's like, I know my rights.
I've watched several videos and read several articles regarding a lot of situations where you're putting in, where you're not doing anything wrong, or there is something going on, but it's misunderstood, and then people kind of freak out,
Yeah.
But then there are people who are very aware, and I remember watching this video once of a lawyer, or a law school student who was walking down the street holding a gun or something, and they weren't pointing it at anybody or something like that. But to think that holding a gun, that's the first thing in a police officer's mind is to pull them, because they were just walking down the street, to go up to them and say, why do you have that? And what are you doing with it out? And he knew his rights. The law student was using the law like crazy against the police officer, and he couldn't say anything back. He knew that this person, unlike the general public, knew what he was talking about and was referencing statements in the Constitution, and was using that against him. And it was it's very empowering, I think.
That's hilarious.
It's hilarious because I was just wow. the police officer was silent. You know, I have a lot of respect for police enforcement in general
Yeah.
because they do a lot of really good work and they protect us. But in that case, because the police officer was just telling him, you know, why do you even have, you know, a gun? He's like, well, I have the right to bear arms, don't I? Like Second Amendment, hello. And then he kept, you know, using
Law after
the
law.
law after law. Like, you cannot do this according to this, and according to that. And I think it's very empowering, though. And I think that once our communities and the general public understand the rights better, just like what we're doing today, just taking a few minutes to review what the Bill of Rights really means, and how they can apply to your daily life.
Like, what more can you do besides, like, you know, you being aware of your rights? So what is something that you can do? Like how our first caller, Cynthia, said, like, she feels that her rights have been stripped away, and now she's not liking her standard of living. So that doesn't it go against the First Amendment, pursuit of happiness, life, and liberty?
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean,
should...
Again, you can argue both ways, right?
Right.
But in that situation specifically, and when you're dealing with, like, housing discrimination and stuff, I think the first thing to do is to review the guidelines of the housing department, or the housing department itself, and the housing company that you are living with, and to read those handbooks, or the kind of the rules of their institution, and to see what exactly they say. And why that's important. And then when you review those, you can probably find something in there that identifies what has happened to her and why it's wrong. And I've seen many people do that. Like you have it in in school, like a code of conduct book, that you can use one of the rules against an administrator or person or a faculty. And I think the same thing applies to the housing field as well. So if you feel like you were persecuted or stripped away of your rights, first things is to review your rights as an individual, as just a person in this country. Number two is to review the rights in the handbook of the conduct of that housing institution, of the government and of that housing institution, because they will probably differ, and they'll probably overlap. And then if you can't find anything in those that feels like it was a violation, because some institutions have a way with words. You know, they have a way with words that doesn't allow you to use it for whatever
cause. You would need a good lawyer at that point.
Exactly. And again, some circumstances don't allow for a lawyer too. So it's very hard. And I think people like Cynthia and others are put in very difficult situations. Like, you know, I don't know what to do here with my housing thing. There's nothing that I can find in the rules, but also I can't afford a lawyer, or I can't, or my city council doesn't listen to me, or my city official, and we find that in many situations they feel like very discouraged, or like just hopeless, and I think that you should not, and I think that no matter what happens, there's an opportunity to kind of use the law against whatever is happening. And I think Cynthia's not the only one. I think there's a lot happening in the online world as well, like we were talking before earlier. Other than the people perpetrating cyberbullying, there are also those who are being watched for their words, and then when they use their words, it's held against them. And I think that's a very big violation of the First Amendment. So, and I know a lot of times on Facebook or the social media networks, they have rules they can report whatever you say. They can use that against you, and you kind of like have no choice, because you are on Facebook and you agree to the terms. And we don't read the terms, do we? When we sign up for something, we don't read the terms. We just say, I agree, and we move on. Because when I do it, like, I don't have time for this. This is like 5 pages long. I think I do it on purpose. They just choose these random words to get you to, like,
I think maybe if we read them, maybe the first 5 paragraphs would be normal. Then maybe after it's just chocolate.
And if you say chocolate, and if you say like something wrong, we will hold you to the law, and we will
or
take
like
you
you
out.
get that notification, hey, you're being reported.
Yeah,
your account is being watched.
That's crazy, and I've heard so many things. And again, this is happening in the Arab American community, the Muslim community,
right? And
that's a whole other topic on its own. But I think it's very important in this what we're talking about now. But I think for today's show, I think the first thing is to introduce this topic, is to make people more aware of their first amendment and the main ideas of it, and then to learn more about how they can be more involved in their communities and use their law against their perpetrators. So
here's a question that I thought of, last night. It's like, do you think that we don't know our rights because we're afraid of making a fool out of ourselves?
We're afraid of making a fool out of ourselves?
Yeah.
By what?
By
if we don't
know our rights, because
I think
we are ignorant of it.
Oh, I think we do. Especially, I mean, I'm not trying to generalize it, but especially in the Arab American and Muslim communities,
right?
Definitely freedom period is taken for granted, and especially with the younger generations.
Right.
I bet I hear that from my parents all the time. Like, we never had this. We never had this opportunity. We couldn't even speak. We couldn't even, we didn't even have access to computers, first of all, or like technology. But then, second of all, we weren't allowed to speak. We weren't allowed to do anything. And when we do, we're held trial for, and we're charged for, and it's crazy. But I think that's something that we need to let the community know, and it's something that is very hot right now. But we are definitely ignorant of making a fool out of ourselves if we don't. I think that's the first step for the community in terms in the legal field, at least.
Because I know this may sound crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're asking me, like, at the same time, so how can I learn about my rights? Yeah. Not only do I go, like, online, search the Bill of Rights, or look at the legalities of where I'm living, look at what they're saying and everything. The first step is for me to, like, literally read. There's no way to get around that.
Okay.
Like, the other day I was reading a local news article about some girl in our community who just committed suicide, but there was no reason. So I'm like, wait, what happened? Yeah. And then I'm looking more at all these other stories. I'm like, so what are the rights now for the family of this person who just committed suicide? What are the rights of those, that are here that can help, in international affairs? So what are rights, for this person who just went to prison for apparently no reason? So I had to make myself aware of this, especially in my community. This is where I live, the Arab American community of Detroit, Dearborn. So if I'm not aware of what's going on in my community, how am I going to fix it? Yeah. So that's why I think, even if we know our rights, we purposely, ignore it. Not only not knowing it makes a fool of ourselves, knowing it and purposely stepping on it also makes a fool out of ourselves.
Another level of making a fool. Yeah, that's definitely very important.
Right. That's like purposely saying, hey, I'm a genius, but I'm gonna act, not a genius.
Yeah, absolutely. We have our final caller, Leila Husseini, who's also the producer of the show. Leila.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I would like to congratulate you both for the excellent talk show today, and thank you so much for reminding us that we have rights in this country. Thank you for both of you. Second, if you allow me to comment on first caller, yes, I agree with her. I feel that our rights is really taken away from us. And if I may comment in the situation today, secure our nation, it is really comes first, but do not use it as an excuse to take our freedom from us. So this is my comment, and congratulate you. We need another definitely topic to follow up at this very important issues, and we have to remind ourselves first that we do have rights in this country. Thank you so much for both of you.
Thank you, Leila.
Bye-bye.
That's very important. So we're going to take one more break, and we'll get back to you with a final wrap-up and announcement of a very special Ramadan scholarship opportunity by Hamadi Educational Services. So stay on the line on Radio Baladi's Know and Protect Your Rights program show. Thank you.
If you get into a car accident, how will you pick up the pieces when you can't work, when the bills pile up? Who will help you? Call 866-YOUR-RIGHTS.
I called Jumana. She took care of everything. My medical bill, lost wages, and even a large settlement. I am Jumana Kiruz, and I assure you that my team will not stop until you get the most for your rights.
If you've been in a car accident, call Jumana. 866-YOUR-RIGHTS.
Dr. Alzu Haley specializes in diabetes and endocrinology and has been conducting research for over 12 years. Right now, there are several clinical studies actively enrolling for both adult and pediatric patients with type 2 diabetes. Under Dr. Alzu Haley's care, participants in the clinical research trials receive free lab work, medical procedures, medical supplies, and medications to assist in their treatment. Qualified participants are also compensated for their time and travel in addition to receiving top care for their diabetes treatment and control. The research department is equipped with experienced and friendly staff who will work to manage patient care and schedule accommodations. Please contact Alzu Haley Medical Consultants at 1331 Monroe Street in Dearborn. Visit alzuhaleydiabetes.com and call 313-581-8903. 313-581-8903.
New Concept Product and Design، رائدة إعداد وتجهيز المطاعم والمطابخ بالمعدات بشكل كامل، غرف التبريد والثلاجات. يمكننا مساعدتكم في الحصول على التمويل اللازم لمشروعكم، وكذا الحصول على الإجازات اللازمة من الدوائر الصحية. نخدمكم بخبرة 25 عاما. ناجي عبود صديقكم الدائم. للاتصال الهاتف رقم 248-442-9292 248-442-9292 وتماما على 33900 West 8 Mile Farmington Hills. للمزيد من التفاصيل زيارة الموقع الإلكتروني www.nuconceptproducts.com.
Welcome back to all of our listeners on today's program of Know and Protect Your Rights. Here with me in the radio studio, we have Tiba Saadoun, a great friend of mine, a fabulous influential speaker. And today's topic was a very relevant and contemporary topic in our community. And I think at this point we've kind of covered the main areas of just introducing this topic to our community and reminding them how very important it is and how critical it is in our community. We have one hashtag to report. Our friend Ibrahim Sadiq from an international level used the hashtag and asked, where is the human rights to children and women in Gaza? And we all know what's happening right now in Palestine with the siege on Gaza and the crisis and the killings. And I think that's a whole other topic that's very, very, very important and critical in our community right now, and it's very urgent.
A point to be made, there is this thing that I recently heard about called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Yeah. It is signed by the UN, so it is kind of funny how they're not abiding by it.
Speaking of rights, where are they, right?
Yeah. And, one question my professor asked, he's like, though this document exists, certain countries don't follow it. Does it still make it, should the other countries still follow it? I believe yes, it is a written document. It is protecting people's rights. And just because, one is not following it doesn't mean you shouldn't. So there is that. So you could use that to address, your local representatives, your embassies and whatever.
And there are organizations that are primarily created and used for this thing, for this cause. So I urge you, all of our listeners, and anyone who thinks that this is important at any level to acknowledge your rights, to learn more about them, and to try to apply them in your community, and to utilize them effectively when you're when they're held against you or they're stripped away from you. And it's going to be a difficult process and it's a struggle, but it's very urgent and it's very important to
you gotta keep fighting,
especially
for
the
it.
young people. And I urge all of our young listeners to take heed. So I thank Tiba Sadoun for joining me on the show today, and hopefully we can continue this conversation another time.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. And we will present a scholarship opportunity by Nawal Hamadi, the founder and CEO of Hamadi Educational Services. All you have to do is answer the 5 questions that will be asked in the video in Arabic and correctly, and you will be nominated to win a scholarship. And I think this is a very great opportunity in this month of Ramadan. Yeah, for us too. Yeah, let's work on this. So enjoy the video or the audio of this video, and have a blessed Friday and Ramadan Kareem. Thank you. Peace be with you.
رمضان كريم.
الله أكرم.
معكي كاميرا ليلى ليه؟
عندي تصوير.
ليه هو في تغيير؟
رمضان السنة دي غير.
ازاي؟
هتعرف انت والمستمعين إذا كنتم تابعين.
أنا متابع أكيد.
واحنا في صباح الخير عندنا الجديد.
فوازير رمضان.
مسابقة مختلفة. الجواب مع السؤال والسؤال عندي صاحب الحال.
توضيح ممكن؟
في رمضان كله يبان.
تابعونا غداة كل صباح.
من الاثنين حتى يوم الخميس.
من 8 وحتى 9.
على WNZK 690 AM.
رمضان غير.
رمضان غير.
صباح الخير.
صباح الخير ميشيغان.
مرحب شهر الصوم مرحب لياليك عادت في امان بعد انتظارنا وشوقنا اليك جيت يا رب.
السلام عليكم. نيابة عن مؤسسة حمادي Educational Services أرحب بالجالية العربية والأمريكية الكريمة بمناسبة حلول شهر رمضان المبارك، وهو شهر المحبة والتعاون، وهو فرصة لنا جميعا كمسلمين من فئات مختلفة وكعرب من أديان مختلفة لننظر إلى الأمور والصعوبات التي يمر فيها أهلنا وأحباؤنا في الشرق الأوسط، وأن نكون كتلة واحدة محبين لبعضنا البعض بغض النظر عن الفروق الفكرية والدينية، لدعم فكرة السلام والأمان وعمل ما يدفع أولادنا إلى الأمام والاهتمام بما هو خير للأمة العربية. وإن شاء الله أن يكون هذا الشهر مباركا على الجميع. وبهذه المناسبة الكريمة أشكر صوت العرب في أمريكا على جمع الجالية العربية من خلال مسابقة شهر رمضان وتشجيع جيل المستقبل العربي الأمريكي على المشاركة بالإجابة على أسئلة تؤهلهم للحصول على منحة بسيطة نظير مشاركتهم بالمسابقة. الأسئلة هي كالتالي: السؤال الأول: من هو عميد الأدب العربي؟ مرة ثانية: من هو عميد الأدب العربي؟ السؤال الثاني: ما هي الولاية الماسية في الولايات المتحدة؟ ما هي الولاية الماسية في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية؟ السؤال الثالث: من هو مكتشف الدورة الدموية الصغرى؟ من هو مكتشف الدورة الدموية الصغرى؟ السؤال الرابع: من هو أشهر عالم رياضيات عربي؟ من هو أشهر عالم رياضيات عربي؟ السؤال الخامس والأخير: ما هي الدولة العربية التي تلقب بالمليون شهيد؟ ما هي الدولة العربية التي تلقب بالمليون شهيد؟ نتمنى على طلابنا المشاركة وأن يكون لهم دور فعال في معرفة الإجابة للأسئلة هذه ومعرفة لغتهم العربية والتكلم بها. وشكرا لكم وشكرا للمستمعين والمشتركين، ورمضان مبارك.
رمضان غير.
رمضان غير.
صباح الخير.
صباح الخير ميشيغان.
مرحب شهر الصوم مرحب لياليك